Chapter 419 Beating up the blood tiger. Dalu was shocked. He swept his tiger claws in front of him, but didn't manage to hit anything. Following this, he felt a pain in his belly, and crashed to the ground. After this, a strong force transmitted from below his waist, and he was lifted up. He was being lifted by Huo Yuao's left leg, and Huo Yuao gave him a kick to his belly with his right leg, sending Dalu flying away. Dalu wasn't concerned about the pain he had suffered. Instead, he shouted, "Who's there?" The person who had exclaimed didn't run away, but emerged from the darkness. She was in disbelief as she looked at Huo Yuao and Dalu, who was crawling up from the ground. It was the beautiful battalion commander, Xu Yun. Dalu's expression immediately changed greatly when he saw Xu Yun. He blushed, and became extremely embarrassed. He couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. Huo Yuao walked towards Xu Yun in a well-behaved manner and greeted her. Battalion commander. Xu Yun quickly came in front of the two of them. She took a look at Dalu before turning to Huo Yuao. She was shocked as she asked, You are unable to beat an ordinary soldier? Dalu, you are regressing." Dalu turned his head to one side. It was the truth that he couldn't beat Huo Yuao. However, the utter embarrassment he was subjected to after the goddess in his heart learned about this truth caused him to feel extremely tormented in his heart. Huo Yuao smiled and said, "Battalion commander, you can't put it this way either. We were only sparring. Furthermore, martial souls aren't everything. That doesn't mean that a person without a martial soul can't be strong." Xu Yun twisted her lips. "This means that you think you are one of those who are strong even without a martial soul? Bullshit. Without a martial soul, how can you be strong? Dalu is just weak." Huo Yuao gently shook his head and said, "He isn't strong, but he isn't the first person with a martial soul to lose to me. He won't be the last either. I don't think you can beat me either." Xu Yun hadn't expected Huo Yuao to talk to her in such a manner, even though he was only a mere small team leader, and after he knew her identity, her expression changed immediately. She was about to burst out in anger, but suddenly thought of something, and said, "All right, I'd like to try then. I'd like to see how you can defeat me without a martial soul. Dalu, watch carefully. Don't throw the face of soul masters in the future." Before Xu Yun finished speaking, Huo Yuao lifted his right leg and kicked her belly. Xu Yun's forte wasn't her strength. While her cultivation was greater than Dalu's, she wasn't as strong as he was. She was immediately kicked more than 10 meters back, and bent her waist in excruciating pain. She squirmed in place and retched repeatedly. "What are you doing?" Although Dalu was embarrassed, he kept on stealing glances at Xu Yun. Seeing that Xu Yun had been kicked by Huo Yuao, he was immediately frantic. He couldn't be bothered with anything else, and quickly rushed to her side to help her up. Huo Yuao looked innocent as he said, "The battalion commander asked me to try. Should I not have attacked?" Huo Yuao had kicked Xu Yun quite hard. She wasn't wearing any armor right now, and only felt cramping pain coming from her belly. Her face was pale as she struggled to stand up. She had always been pampered since she was young. Since when had she been beaten to such a state? She was completely furious because of her pride and the pain she had suffered. Go to hell. Xu Yun pushed Dalu away, and her body started to shine brightly. Following this, her forehead also lit up, and a dazzling crown surfaced on her head. Beneath her feet, 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings quickly rose. Her cultivation was indeed greater than Dalu's. She was a 4-ringed soul ancestor. Considering the fact that she looked younger than Dalu, it was already pretty impressive that she possessed such a cultivation. Huo Yuao was slightly stunned when he saw her cultivation. He had seen such a martial soul before, and it indeed had some form of significance. It was a star crown, the strongest martial soul in the imperial family of the Dalu Empire. Only those who had the direct bloodline of the imperial family could possess such a martial soul. Her surname is Shu, which means that she's a member of the imperial family. No wonder Dalu is so obsessed with her. She's actually a princess. Perhaps this Xu Yun is Shu Juju's younger sister. However, her identity as a princess was unable to affect Huo Yuao's current plan. Xu Yun unleashed her martial soul, and the pain she suffered in her belly lessened significantly as she adjusted her soul power. However, her face was still pale, and she pointed her finger at Huo Yuao. Her second soul ring instantly shone, and her star crown slowly rose. Streaks of starlight shot towards Huo Yuao. This was her second soul skill, Starlight Shine. Xu Yun didn't believe that an ordinary person could resist a soul master. This fellow actually dared to kick me when I wasn't paying attention. He can't be spared. However, she revealed the same look of astonishment as Dalu when he first fought Huo Yuao. She was shocked to discover that her Starlight Shine failed to take effect on Huo Yuao, even though it was supposed to be able to lock onto her opponent. It failed to lock onto Huo Yuao, and Huo Yuao avoided her streaks of starlight as he quickly shifted his body. At the same time, he was also rapidly inching closer to her. Huo Yuao was a little stunned when he saw Xu Yun's soul skill. This star crown is indeed the strongest martial soul of the imperial family of the Dalu Empire. The cultivation path that Xu Yun has chosen is different from Shu Juju. Shu Juju is a control type soul master, while Xu Yun seems to focus on long range attacks. In terms of talent, she's slightly weaker than Shu Juju. However, it'll be difficult to tell who's better once she cultivates to her higher standard. While he thought of this, Huo Yuao didn't have any intention of going easy on her. As he charged forward, his spiritual power also engulfed Xu Yun. It was very relaxing for him to deal with Dalu even without unleashing his martial soul and using his soul skills. However, Xu Yun was adept at long range attacks, and her star crown was stronger than his mutated white tiger. In addition, she also had 4 rings. It was thus much more difficult to deal with her. Seeing that her starlight shine was ineffective, Xu Yun pointed her right hand towards the sky. Her star crown immediately gathered a ball of light with a diameter of over almost half a meter. It was as if a star had descended upon the mortal world. "Yuna, you can't harm him." Dalu weakly reminded her. However, Xu Yun was infuriated, and didn't heed his advice. She pointed her right hand at Huo Yuao, and her third soul skill, Starburst, flew towards Huo Yuao. It was a pure offensive soul skill, and it was extremely powerful. Once it blew apart, the explosive force generated could even compare to a 10,000-year soul skill. Its destructive strength was also rather great. Even against her Starburst, Huo Yuao was still fearless. He had his spiritual detection to support him. No matter what soul skill Xu Yun used, she wouldn't be able to escape his detection. Seeing the ball of starlight flying towards him, Huo Yuao's eyes flashed mysteriously, and Xu Yun suddenly felt giddy. At this instant, Huo Yuao pointed his right hand at the ball of starlight, and it immediately flew forward even faster. Following this, he made a slashing gesture. An invisible force severed the connection between Xu Yun and the ball of starlight just like that. Huo Yuao didn't let the ball of starlight touch him either. He deftly moved it through the air with his hands, guiding it to go around his body. Xu Yun was shocked when she saw this scene. She had no idea how a person without a martial soul, or rather one who didn't unleash his martial soul, was able to resist her starburst in such a manner. How was this possible? In the next moment, her ball of starlight suddenly enlarged. Instantly, he returned her starburst. He was returning to her what she had tried to inflict on him. It was tit for tat. Xu Yun didn't have much fighting experience. Huo Yuao's guess was right. She was the youngest princess of the Dalu Empire, and was doted on by her brothers and sisters since she was young. She didn't have any significant fighting experience. She came to be a soldier at her own request, and she wanted to contribute to her empire. Shu Juju had no choice but to deploy her younger sister to the reserves. In her opinion, as long as Xu Yun didn't have to go onto a battlefield, she would return after she got tired of military life. However, who knew that Xu Yun would love being in the military, and had spent several months in the military already? She had no intention of returning. The reserves were extremely safe, and thus Shu Juju wasn't worried about her younger sister's safety, and left her to her own devices. Right now, Xu Yun was stunned in place after witnessing the miracle Huo Yuao performed. The starburst she had unleashed earlier was now in front of her. "Yuna, be careful." Dalu was alarmed when he saw this, and quickly unleashed his white tiger's Vajra transformation. After this, he leapt and blocked for Xu Yun. Huo Yuao silently shook his head. Silly kid. He should have pinned her to the ground. Since he was going to sacrifice himself to save her, he should have taken the opportunity to get closer to her. After spending some time with Dalu, he still quite liked him. Although he was a little stubborn, he was a kind person. Just as Xu Yun's starburst was about to hit him, it was suddenly lifted into the air and exploded, releasing a golden halo. Xu Yun reacted only at this point. When she saw Dalu using his arms to block her, she seemed slightly moved. This fool. At this point, she suddenly saw Huo Yua turning around before fleeing. In the blink of an eye, he had already run several dozen meters away. His voice also sounded from afar. Aren't you going to run considering the huge commotion that we've just caused? Aren't you afraid of being dealt with by those from the military law department? Daluo also reacted. He turned around and looked at Xu Yan with a complex look before chasing after Huo Yua. Xu Yan was the only one standing in place as she remained in a daze. What had happened tonight was a huge blow to her. If not for Daluo earlier, would her own starburst have struck her? She was most familiar with the power of her attacks. The strength of her starburst was great enough to leave her critically hurt. Who was that person just now? Why was he able to detonate my starburst? After returning to his bunk, Huo Yua silently crept up to his bed and under his blanket. His face wasn't red, and he wasn't out of breath. Daluo returned a bit later. However, he didn't return to his berth, but came to Huo Yua's bed instead. Thank you. Looking at Huo Yua, Daluo struggled to say these two words. Huo Yua glanced at him. What are you thanking me for? For beating you up? Daluo was embarrassed as he whispered. You know I'm not talking about that. Huo Yua chortled. Quickly, return and meditate so that you can defeat me faster and rid yourself of me. Okay. Surprisingly, Daluo didn't retort. Perhaps he had forgotten about it, but he just returned to his berth, where he sat cross-legged on his bed. Huo Yua slid into his blanket and made himself comfortable before he entered deep meditation. He wasn't afraid of Xu Yan reporting him. By reporting him, she would expose Daluo too. Moreover, he hadn't exposed his cultivation as a soul master. Even if she was a battalion commander, she had to be reasonable, too. Daluo sat in a daze on his bed, unable to focus for half the night. As he recalled what had happened, he suddenly realized that what had happened earlier was the best outcome. He was thrashed by Tang Dong and lost face in front of Xu Yan. However, Xu Yan also lost to Tang Dong with her 4-ring cultivation. This meant that he wasn't that weak. This was the first time he felt that Tang Dong wasn't so irksome, especially after Tang Dong controlled Xu Yan's starburst from striking him. Otherwise, he and Xu Yan would have been hurt even though he unleashed his White Tiger's Vajra transformation, and even though Xu Yan had a 4-ring cultivation. Yuna, am I getting further and further away from you? The night went on silently, and training began as usual the next day. Indeed, Xu Yan didn't report Huo Yua. Everything carried on as normal. All the new recruits were extremely tired as they trained for the entire day. The intensity of this 3-month training kept on increasing. Seeing that the sky had already turned dark, Daluo proactively came over to tell Huo Yua, let's go. Oh. What's with you today? Why are you anxious? Daluo's face turned red, and he softly asked, are you coming or not? Huo Yua smiled as he said, it's a good thing when someone wants to be beaten up. Let's go. As he spoke, he stood up and walked out with Daluo. After leaving their bunk, Daluo looked around, but didn't discover anything. He was immediately disappointed. Huo Yua wore a crafty look on his face as he softly asked, did you know the battalion commander before yesterday? Yes. Daluo laughed bitterly. Our families are close. Only, she's a legitimate child, while I'm a bastard child. There's a great difference in our statuses. I've liked her for as long as I can remember. However, I've no great talent. No matter how hard I try, my cultivation can't catch up to hers. Huo Yua laughed. You're rather honest. Daluo was embarrassed and glared back at him. He said, I knew you would laugh at me. I know that it's impossible for us to get together, in terms of abilities and status. Are you this useless? Huo Yua said disdainfully. Daluo suddenly clenched his fist. What can I do if I come from an inferior background? Huo Yua glanced at him coldly. If you have such an attitude, you'll never have any hope in your entire life. Go back, useless trash. I can't be bothered to beat you up anymore. After he finished speaking, he quickly turned around and walked back towards his bunk. You. Daluo quickly stepped forward and stopped Huo Yua. He shouted, I'm not useless. Aren't you considered useless if you give up on yourself? Huo Yua said scornfully. A true hero's background doesn't matter. So what if you're a bastard son? Let me ask you a question. If you become a titled Douluo, or even a transcendent Douluo, who would care if you're a bastard? Everything's not going well for you because of one issue. You're not working hard enough. Daluo was stunned. Yes. If you were a titled Douluo, or even a transcendent Douluo, who would still look down on him? Who would care that he was a bastard? However, could he really become a titled Douluo? Have you thought it through? Huo Yua asked calmly. Daluo suddenly looked very determined. I'll do my best to defeat you first. Huo Yua nodded and said, good. As long as you can defeat me, I'll take back what I said about you being useless trash. Otherwise, you're still a piece of useless trash. Let's go. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the military drill grounds. It wasn't an easy thing to teach his own younger brother. However, Huo Yua felt quite delighted for some unknown reason. Ever since he had joined the army after Wang Donga and Wang Qiu met with mishaps, he had felt much better. Very soon, the two of them reached the military drill grounds. Daluo was surprised, because Xu Yan was actually waiting there. There was a dominating look in her eyes, and she looked very cold. Yuna. Daluo called out in joy when he saw her, and quickly ran over to her. Xu Yan glared at him and said, how many times must I tell you not to call me Yuna? Only my elder siblings can call me that. Daluo paused for a moment before helplessly saying, all right, Xu Yan. Xu Yan recalled how he had blocked her attack without any hesitation yesterday, and the look in her eyes turned gentler. She said, do the two of you come here to train every day? What's with him? He's not a soul master. How is he so strong? Daluo laughed bitterly. If I knew, I wouldn't be beaten up by him every day. Xu Yan snapped. Useless. Let me go again. I was too careless yesterday. I'll take care of him today. As she spoke, she walked in front of Daluo towards Huo Yua. Daluo touched his nose and remembered how he had used this same excuse after he lost to Huo Yua the first time. However, he had already lost for a month straight now. As she spoke, Xu Yan walked towards Huo Yua. While she sounded like she didn't care about this, it was evident from the look in her eyes that she regarded this fight very highly. After losing to Huo Yua yesterday and almost suffering serious injuries, she felt that she had been greatly humiliated. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come to find him today. Huo Yua revealed a cold look on his face. He crossed his arms and mocked. I hope you won't need a human shield to protect yourself today. You. Xu Yan was furious. She wanted to say something, but Huo Yua suddenly moved. He suddenly stepped on the ground with his left foot before he charged towards Xu Yan like an arrow. He was extremely quick. Xu Yan was a little stunned. She had suffered yesterday because she was taken by surprise, and her belly was still aching slightly. When she saw Huo Yua suddenly moving, she immediately retreated quickly. At the same time, she unleashed her star crown. Streaks of starlight shot out from her star crown towards Huo Yua. However, she felt dejected, because Huo Yua seemed to be naturally immune to her starlight. No matter how concentrated her attacks were, he was still able to avoid them. It was as if he could predict where her starlight would hit before she even shot it out. The gap between them was quickly shrinking. What did soul masters who were adept at long-range attacks fear? Their opponent getting closer to them. Furthermore, Xu Yan had challenged Huo Yua today after pondering over it for an entire day. She was very clear about Daluo's abilities. It was definitely not a coincidence that Daluo lost so heavily to Huo Yua. Although she discovered it by accident, it was obvious that Daluo wasn't beaten up by Huo Yua just once or twice. While Daluo's white tiger wasn't pure, his abilities weren't weak. He was a close combat assault type soul master. Although she had 4 rings and Daluo had 3, she knew that she couldn't compare to Daluo's physical strength if both of them unleashed their martial souls. As a result, she would definitely be unable to handle Huo Yua at close range if even Daluo couldn't do so. She had made up her mind to not let Huo Yua get close to her no matter what. Otherwise, she would definitely lose. Under such circumstances, she immediately made a decision. Her third soul ring shone brightly, and she unleashed her starburst once again. After Huo Yua used his controlling crane capturing dragon to control her starburst yesterday, she didn't fling it directly towards him today. Rather, she flung it towards the ground not far in front of him. At the same time, her body shone brightly with golden light. Her 3 three soul rings flashed slightly, and it was difficult to tell which soul skill she was using. Her starburst immediately exploded violently on the ground. The tremendous boom, the following shockwave immediately engulfed the path that Huo Yue had to cross to reach her. Xu Yan only wanted to do one simple thing: widen the gap between her and Huo Yue before slowly dealing with him. Given Huo Yue's abilities, he could guess what Xu Yan wanted to do the moment she threw her starburst out. He stopped and leapt to one side when her starburst exploded. He rolled on the ground and dodged the core of the explosion. After he rolled, he leapt towards Xu Yan once again, minimizing the influence of the explosion. Seeing that her starburst had exploded, Xu Yan was about to heave a sigh of relief. However, she suddenly saw Huo Yue charging towards her from the side. She was shocked once again. This guy's reactions are too quick. Her fourth soul ring instantly shone. She couldn't be bothered with concealing her abilities anymore. She drew streaks of starlight in front of her with her hands, and they formed a strange image. This image was obviously a star crown. This star crown started to move towards Huo Yue. It was her fourth soul skill, Soul Crush Star Crown. This was a single target offensive and control type skill. It was also the strongest soul skill that Xu Yan could unleash right now. Once engulfed by this Soul Crush Star Crown, one would suffer from agonizing cuts unleashed by the streaks of starlight that made up this star crown. Even if one could resist these cuts, the streaks of starlight would still turn into a barrier and trap them. This soul skill was extremely powerful. Xu Yan was still unable to tap into celestial power to strengthen herself, but her control of her star crown was already pretty good. Furthermore, she was extremely focused this time. She knew that she had to lock Huo Yue down in order to defeat him. While her idea was good, it was a pity that reality was cruel. Her star crown was about to reach Huo Yue, but his figure suddenly turned illusory. His pace doubled, and he managed to escape Xu Yan's lock on as he moved his body in some unknown way. At the same time, he leapt forward once again and gestured towards Xu Yan, palm turned toward himself. Xu Yan suddenly felt a suction force pulling her towards her opponent. In such a critical moment, Xu Yan's reaction was rather commendable. She grit her teeth and another of her starbursts ignited. Aren't you trying to pull me over? All right, I shall deliver a starburst to you. Then, she was already prepared to perish alongside Huo Yue. In fact, her star crown could assimilate some of the abilities that she unleashed. This meant that Huo Yue was bound to face a greater explosive force if her starburst blew apart, and they were standing the same distance away from it. Huo Yue revealed a slight smile on his face. His right palm suddenly shook a few times before Xu Yan's starburst started to shake. Too. Once again, it broke free from Xu Yan's control, and Huo Yue flung it into the air. Huo Yue kicked at her as she exclaimed in shock. He hit the same spot he had yesterday. He didn't even bother with being gentlemanly. With one kick, Xu Yan flew away. It was so quick that Dalu couldn't make it in time to save her even if he wanted to. He watched helplessly as Xu Yan flew through the air. As he leapt up, Dalu immediately charged to Xu Yan's side. Yuna, no. Yuna, are you okay? She felt an excruciating pain in her belly, and her internal organs seemed to have been ripped from their positions. Xu Yan grit her teeth, and the hatred in her eyes seemed as if it could turn into sharp blades and cut Huo Yue to pieces. However, she couldn't speak because she was in too much pain. Dalu glared at Huo Yue and shouted furiously, "How can you be so hard on her? She's a girl. Don't you know how to be gentlemanly?" Huo Yue shook his head and said, "On a battlefield, do you think your enemies will let you off just because you're a girl? Furthermore, she's hurt not because of me, but you." Dalu was stunned. "Me? You were the one who hurt her. Why am I to be blamed?" Huo Yue scornfully said, "You like her, right? Since you like her, you should treat her like your woman. When she was hurt, what were you doing? You can't even protect your own woman. Don't you think you're a useless piece of trash? You." Normally, Dalu was already used to how Huo Yue tried to agitate him. However, it was different today. He agitated him in front of Xu Yan. Moreover, Huo Yue had already hurt Xu Yan. Suddenly, Dalu's eyes turned red, and he roared furiously. He unleashed his white tiger and charged towards Huo Yue without regard for anything else. 3 seconds later, bang! Dalu crashed forcefully to the ground a short distance away from Xu Yan. "A piece of trash is a piece of trash. If I want to kill your woman or do anything to her now, what can you do? You can only watch helplessly." He became even more scornful. He even placed his hands behind his back and revealed a disdainful look on his face. "I'm going to fight it out with you." Dalu's eyes had turned completely red by this point. He leapt forward again and charged towards Huo Yue. Another 3 seconds passed. Bang! Dalu crashed forcefully to the ground not far in front of Xu Yan again. This time, Dalu quickly climbed up without Huo Yue needing to agitate him. After this, he charged towards Huo Yue once again like a crazed tiger. A smile appeared in Huo Yue's eyes. At the same time, he also noticed that there was something different about the look in Xu Yan's eyes right now. Of course, all this didn't stop him from beating Dalu up again and again. 3 seconds passed, then passed again. Dalu had been thrown to the ground more than 10 times. This time, Huo Yue was more violent against him. Not only was Dalu's shirt torn, but there were even injuries on his body. However, Huo Yue had clearly agitated Dalu a lot this time. Every time Dalu was thrown to the ground, he would crawl up crazily and proceed to attack Huo Yue with all his strength. When Dalu was thrown onto the ground in front of Xu Yan another time, and his mouth was already oozing blood, Xu Yan couldn't help but shout, "Stop fighting! You're not as good as him! Stop fighting!" "No, I have to protect you. I must protect you." Dalu suddenly turned his head back. When Xu Yan looked into his eyes, she saw a hysterical and crazed look. Within this craziness, she could see a slight mania in it. Dalu was persistent. After he finished speaking, Dalu charged towards Huo Yue once again. Huo Yue nodded silently in his heart. This was because he could clearly tell that the part of Dalu's martial soul that possessed spiritual power was slowly being awakened. His spiritual power was increasing at a shocking speed as he was in this crazy state. Yes, this was the true essence of his mutated white tiger. Right now, Dalu's attacks were obviously much more ferocious than before. Furthermore, he would form some white shadows around him as he charged towards Huo Yue. On a closer look, one would see that these shadows were shaped like white tigers. Dalu's speed and strength were both increasing as he released spiritual undulations. The white lights around his body also became much stronger than before. Feeling stimulated one's heart and spiritual power. Huo Yue wanted Dalu to enter a realm that was similar to the one he entered when he yearned for Wang Dongke and created his 3 ultimate Haodong skills. Why did he kick Xu Yan in the same place on both occasions? Did he really not know what it was to be a gentleman? Would he really attack a woman so freely? Of course not. What he was trying to do was make Dalu think that he couldn't protect the woman he loved. This was why he suddenly used actions and words to agitate Dalu. They were indeed very effective. Dalu had gone berserk now. His soul and spiritual power greatly increased in such a state. Finally, even Dalu couldn't keep count of the number of times he was thrown to the ground by Huo Yue. As he collapsed once again, he tried his best to crawl back up. However, the pain that he suffered stopped him from doing so, even though his soul power kept on recovering. Right now, there were injuries all over his body, and his uniform was already torn and tattered. However, he still seemed very persistent. Even though his body was greatly hurt, the look in his eyes was still burning strongly. "Stop fighting, stop fighting." Tears flowed down Xu Yan's cheeks. It wasn't that she didn't want to stop Dalu or help him. It was just that an unknown force was restraining her as Dalu kept on charging crazily towards Huo Yue. She could see and hear everything, but she couldn't move. She tried her best to struggle, but she couldn't even gather a shred of her soul power. She could only watch helplessly as Dalu charged towards Huo Yue time and time again, and failed time and time again. Devil. Huo Yue was like a devil in her eyes, whereas Dalu's persistence and determination caused her to be moved once again. "Are you doing this because of me? Luolai, give up. Stop fighting him. You are inferior to him. Don't." After hearing Xu Yan's voice, Dalu seemed to have taken a stimulant and supported his body with his trembling arms. Right now, he looked very scary. His body was already bloodstained, and his eyes were particularly bright. There seemed to be an extra blood-red pupil beside his black pupils too. He peered into the sky and roared. His back shone brightly with white light, and this white light seemed to be stained by the blood red on his body, and slowly turned red, creating a projection of a blood tiger. Dalu slowly lifted his hands up beside his body. The sharp blades of light above his claws also slowly turned blood red. He twisted his head and looked at Chu Yun with his weird-looking eyes. He said, word by word, I can definitely protect you. I will protect you. After he finished speaking, he charged towards Hua Yuao once again. His speed was even faster than what it was at his peak state. He turned into a blood-red whirlwind and swept towards Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao nodded slightly. Right now, Dalu's fighting strength was already beyond what a 4-ring soul ancestor was able to achieve. His potential was finally being realized. A spiritual-type soul master, or rather a soul master with a martial soul that had some spiritual components, would indeed find it more difficult to improve his cultivation. However, the mutation of their martial soul would only truly be completed after the spiritual components in their martial soul had been triggered. Only then would they become stronger than ordinary soul masters. Dalu's white tiger was indeed mutated, but this mutation didn't have to be a negative one. Even an experienced teacher from Shrek Academy wouldn't be certain of this point. However, Hua Yuao was different. He probably possessed the strongest spiritual-type martial soul in the world right now. After 1 month of interaction with Dalu, he was very clear about Dalu's condition. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.